Pokemon is fucking great. Every single time a new game comes out, I am absolutely hyped. The massive assortment of Pokemon you can collect and use in battle, as well as the adventures you take across each new region, is just so fulfilling and satisfying. The anime, on the other hand, it's definitely not awful, but it is probably the most okayest thing I've ever watched. Nothing really stands out as amazing or mind-blowing as a whole. Yeah, you got a few great fights like against Paul, Gary, or Alan that just really push the show to a different level and show off the series' potential. But overall, the show is so flat. Let me put it this way. One Piece has just over 900 episodes, right? And in that time, we have countless memorable, touching, or amazing moments. Luffy punching the Celestial Dragon, when Luffy puts a straw hat on Nami, and the walk towards Arlong Park, saying goodbye to the Going Merry, the scene where nothing happened. I could literally go on forever, and I actually plan on making a series where I talk about all the hype but underappreciated moments in One Piece because there are just so many. Pokemon, on the other hand, is well over 1,000 episodes, and you get like one great fight per season, maybe two if it's a really good one, and that's really heartbreaking as someone who grew up watching the Pokemon anime, playing its games, and collecting the cards. I also grew up watching Dragon Ball and Naruto. I really do wish Pokemon grew up and evolved with its audience, much like Naruto and Dragon Ball did. So today, we are going to be looking into what I would do to make the Pokemon anime more of a modern classic. You know, like recreators? Sorry, I couldn't help myself. So one of the biggest but easiest things they could incorporate is using environments more in battle. Two of the fights I mentioned earlier, Ash vs Paul and Ash vs Gary, both of which destroyed the battlefield to some extent to gain an advantage. To defeat Gary's Blastoise, Ash had his Charizard melt the arena and bring things into a close quarters brawl so that the long-range water attacks would be taken out of the equation. And against Paul, he had his Infernape dig underground and essentially blow the field up to remove the toxic spikes and field hazards Paul had set down. And you know what? Even though this is super simple, and both are basically the same thing, it was amazing both times. Another example is when he battles Brock and uses the sprinklers in the gym to weaken rock-type Pokemon. The point still stands, battles in Pokemon aren't tied down to turn-based combat where you only have 4 possible attacks. It isn't a 2D battle like we have in games. Instead, Pokemon can react in real time to opponents' attacks and launch counterattacks or dodge. But more importantly, they have a whole arena that can be incorporated in the battle, hiding behind trees or rocks, jumping off walls. Anything that has trainers using genuine strategy that goes beyond the basic rock, paper, scissors type advantage formula would be amazing. I'm not saying it doesn't happen at all in the show. What I'm saying is that I love when it does happen and I wish it happened more. And an easy way to make more strategic fights happen is to make Ash actually get smarter, but I'll get to that in a second. Instead, we get 1,000 episodes of Team Rocket in an air balloon getting hit by a thunderbolt, just uninspired and boring battles on repeat. And speaking of things that don't change over time, Ash needs to change. Or at least age. I get it, the show is marketed towards kids, and that's great, really, but the overwhelming fact of the matter is that not only the fights, but the plot as well are stuck in a loop. And I think a big part of that is that we're always focusing on Ash. He is seemingly immortal, and because of that, every season starts out with him starting from scratch with just his Pikachu, as a 10-year-old kid who needs to take down gym leaders and earn his way to the championship for that region. I'll admit that Alola did shake things up a little bit, but when a protagonist isn't allowed to change or grow, and even loses all of his progress every other year, things just start feeling stale. Imagine an Ash Ketchum that actually learned from previous seasons and past mistakes, and grew as an individual. So a pretty simple change to this formula could be either of these two things. First, Ash needs to start growing up. Having Ash be more experienced and older in a new region lends itself to a different basis for the plot to be built on. It doesn't have to be a child wandering around the region and being seen as an inexperienced kid. Even just bumping him up to like 16 or 18 would completely change the feel he gives off. His personality could be a little bit more grown up too, which would change how the interactions between him and the supporting cast would play off. I mean, if you ever talk to a 10-year-old and an 18-year-old, there is a clear difference in how they go about their situations. Look at the beginning of Naruto and compare it to the end of Naruto. He went from being an annoying little shit to a mature little shit. A lot of long-running anime allow the protagonist to age because it makes it easier to develop the character and allows the audience to grow with them. Hell, even look at Red. The dude doesn't really speak, so when we see him in games, it's all about the aura and the presence he gives off. At the end of Gold and Silver, the player climbs Mount Silver and reaches Red standing at its peak. He's alone and immediately you know you are about to face a Pokemon champion. Now compare that to Sun and Moon. He's now 20 years old, meaning he looks and feels more like an adult. But on top of that, he gives off this feeling of not just being older, but this aura of an experienced Pokemon master. There's a level of maturity that he has, and it makes players respect him even more. So clearly an age bump might have a solid change for how Ash is seen. And another option is that Ash is taken out altogether, or is put into a mentor role. Introducing a new cast with a different set of personalities and values could shake things up in a big way. Yeah, we've always seen Ash's harem change each season, but the main focus that we are watching for doesn't change. It's always Ash, reacting to different girls or dudes following him. But what if we follow the story where Misty and Brock joined up with Gary and Kanto? Just even thinking about that new dynamic is insanely interesting to me, and it could be amazing. And the second you mention swapping out Ash, you know we gotta talk about the Pokemon Adventures manga. I just recently read it myself, and for everyone who hasn't read it, the Pokemon Adventures series is unironically one of the best manga series I have ever read, which is honestly insane to say, I know. Firstly, the story follows Red on his journey to fill the Pokedex and to become a Pokemon champion. However, it gets shaken up pretty quickly. Battles in this series are often fought with the intention of either killing your opponent or saving yourself. Like Lieutenant Surge has a bazooka that shoots electrodes, Koga uses poison gas and has his Arbok straight up try to murder Blue, Sabrina is a Waman who is actually strong, and Blaine uses a Mewtwo to crush his opponent's Pokeballs and give him an advantage. People use Pokemon as straight up weapons sometimes in the series, but not only that, the spread of Team Rocket includes gym leaders like Sabrina, Koga, Lieutenant Surge, and so on, and the Elite Four is super evil. Team Rocket is an evil threat that actually feels like a threat in this series. Every character has depth and an interesting story behind them, but what makes it even better is how the focus on the storytelling is constantly shifting. While yes, the main story follows Red originally, we also have stories following Blue, Yellow, and Green, and as we jump into new regions, the old characters we knew become mentors and powerful support characters, kinda like I suggested earlier. When we move on to the Gold and Silver series, we still have Red and Blue, and all of them making regular appearances. They become role models and plot devices that feel really fluid and natural, and I think it might be time for Ash to take the same role. And when it comes to the manga, there is one other thing that it does really well. It's mature. Like I said, people are fighting to the death sometimes. People sacrifice themselves, Pokemon get cut in half. It can be really brutal in moments to boost tension, while super funny in others. There's this great system of balance that is just so one-sided in the anime. And I'm not saying that every battle needs to end with a decapitated Pikachu. What I'm saying is that yes, Pokemon was designed and targeted at kids 20 years ago. But those kids have grown up, they are now adults who love Pokemon and who wish the series grew up with them. But those are just my thoughts. I'd love to hear what you think about Pokemon, be it the anime, manga, or games in the comments down below. Do you agree with my improvements? Do you have any of your own? If you enjoyed this video, be sure to smash that like button and subscribe if you haven't already. But before we end the video, let's jump into a nice little Briggs Q. What is up, Chad lads? I am Briggs, and welcome to #BriggsQ. And it's honestly just like the best Q&A series on YouTube. I mean, I think so. Smash like if you agree. I'm currently editing my video, which is why I'm recording like this. I realized I forgot to do a Briggs Q, and I can't not do a Briggs Q now that I brought it back. So let's just jump into the questions. I'm still going off of Twitter right now, but eventually I'll be answering your questions from the YouTube section. So if you feel like asking me a question, just use #BriggsQ down below of this video, and it might just be in my next video. First question by Space Otaku. We got, if you could change any character backstory to something you feel fits them better or makes them more interesting, who would you choose? I would probably choose to change Todoroki's backstory from My Hero Academia, and I would change it so that his mother never gave birth to him and he wasn't in the series. Or, just to be serious, probably I would change it in a way that he got back at his father in a different way than, like, he decided to not use fire and only use his ice side to get back at his father, and I wish he went about it in a different way, so maybe I would change that. Anyway, next question. What are my top 5 favorite fights in anime? One of my favorite fights that I always refer to, I know a lot of people haven't seen it because you guys haven't seen Kenichi yet, which you definitely need to do because Kenichi is like my favorite anime of all time, other than One Piece. And it's Kenichi versus Odin near the end of the series. It's one of my favorite fights. It's like an accumulation of all the things he learned and all his ass kickings throughout the season used in his final battle. and it's absolutely amazing. I guess the next fight could be Dio versus Jotaro. I think that's amazing. Another fight that has a special place in my heart is Luffy versus Don Krieg, and I know that's like no one's favorite fight in One Piece. Like Rob Lucci, Luffy versus Katakuri, Luffy versus Arlong are all fantastic fights as well. But I think Don Krieg, for whatever reason, it really like impacted me and made me realize what type of person Luffy was. Someone with no fear, someone who put his crew first. And imagine fighting someone who's not scared to get injured. And like the scene where he punches through Don Krieg's spikes just like blows my mind every time. I think it's it's one of the first fights in One Piece that I'm like, damn, I'm in love with this fucking show. I'm in love with Luffy. Right before that, we had Zoro versus Mihawk. I think it's a fantastic little arc there. I think it's underappreciated. What's another fight? I mean, I mentioned quite a few. I guess we'll just move on. The rest of them are One Piece answers. Luffy versus Rob Lucci is fantastic as well. I think Speedwagon by Still Not Clicked. I think Speedwagon is one of the best characters in all of JoJo's. Do you agree? He's definitely best girl in all of anime, so he's definitely best girl in all of JoJo's. I would agree. Is he the best character in JoJo's? I don't know. Joseph is a fantastic character, man. He's one of my favorite characters of all time. Do I have any other questions I can ask here or answer? Will I reply to this question? Now, before I end the video, I want to give a huge, gigantic thank you to all my current patrons and members. You guys take me one step closer of turning this dream of doing YouTube full-time into a reality. When I graduate university in December, I'm going to try to go full-time, so your support is super appreciated. A huge thank you to A17 FFDP, Beck, Elf Queen Mab, Ginkgo Taku, I Cry During Sex, Johnny Boy Draws, Kana, Mick Manga, Nace Mazer, Nothing But a Fan, Rusty Lee, Sebastian, Siren, Starry Nick, Steelers, The Anime Dude, The Magikarp Guy, Thought Destroyer, and Viva the Loser. Thank you so much, guys. And my 3 members, Kaido Might Be a Dragon, The Mexican Dude, and Too Spooky. Thank you so much, guys.